on the night where it was his brother that got the final laugh in the Wizards preseason opener. Alex Sarr came back from his calf injury, and he provided a glimpse of hope, what could be a breakout year in the second season of Alex Sarr for the Washington Wizards. We'll talk about it today and break down the preseason opening loss on a buzzer beater to the Raptors here on Locked On Wizards.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
DC family, you're locked on to the Washington Wizards. We're a part of our family. We thank you for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. If you're not subscribed already, come on, join the DC family. We keep it locked on for you all season long. I'm Ben Strober, one of your co-hosts, cover all things DC sports for 106.7 The Fan and the Team 98, and alongside, as always, my co-host Abdullah Ayubi, the DC sports content creating savant. AB, tough ending to that one. Wizards fall 113-112 here in the preseason opener to the Toronto Raptors. We are live from Capital One Arena. We hope to see you guys interact in the chat with us here. Competitive game overall, AB. A lot to like. A lot to break down, though, so let's get into it, AB. How are we feeling?
Feeling good. Unfortunately, it wasn't our star that hit a game winner tonight, Ben, but the Wizards fought hard. The young guys fought hard towards the end of the fourth quarter, and this team, defensively, I saw some glimpses that I was very encouraged by. But Alex Sarr's efficiency and being aggressive, rebounding, that's what I'm hoping to talk about today.
Absolutely. A lot to get into with Alex Sarr, who looked fantastic today. Real quick, we remind you that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started today. First things first, Alex Sarr. I got to give him his props because all summer long, we had said we need to see him look more physical, be imposing as a 7'1" guy can be. And man, he looked physical, he looked poised, he was comfortable around the rim, he was efficient around the rim, he operated well to the pick and roll. A lot to love out of Alex Sarr's game today. He ended up finishing with 12 points, 8 rebounds, and this was all just in the first half, keep in mind. Head coach Brian Keefe said the reason he played 17 minutes today is because they're still working him back from the calf injury that he sustained in the end of the Eurobasket, and ultimately looked really good in the minutes he was able to play. The plus-minus was great as well. So a lot to break down further. Keyshawn George, a focal point of the episode for his defensive work. We'll get into that as we roll along. And then Bub Carrington as well. He struggled in really his debut as this team's point guard in the preseason. We'll touch into that. Veteran presence as well. We're going to have it all for you here on Locked On Wizards. AB, overall, I'm super encouraged with what we saw for Alex Sarr tonight.
Yeah, and I think one thing before we get into everything, we have to remember it's preseason. It's a game that obviously doesn't count, but we were encouraged to see Alex Sarr go out there and be aggressive early on, and that's what he mentioned this Wizards media days not too long ago. He said that I want to be aggressive, I want to take more shots in the paint, I want to make sure that I'm efficient. And a guy like him who got stronger and taller this offseason, Ben, the sky's the limit for him. I think when it comes to being a rim protector, he's already there, he's only going to get better. And I think offensively, the team, he should be that second or third option. Obviously, CJ McCollum, we'll talk about CJ McCollum soon, but Trey Johnson, those are the guys that we want to see score the ball. But Alex Sarr, if he can get the offensive game going, I really think he can be a top 5, top 7 center in this league.
One of the things that we saw from Alex Sarr was the opportunity they gave him early on in the game. It seems like he was the focal point to start things off offensively, and I'm just going through the notes and looking back how it all transpired in the starting lineup. We saw Bub, CJ, Chris, George, and Sarr. I'd imagine this would be the lineup that you see on opening night. First play of the game, Sarr instantly penetrated from the wing, and he found George wide open in the corner, which he did miss. But ultimately, Sarr looked really comfortable, actually, operating with the basketball in his hands. They gave him an opportunity. He looks bigger, he looks stronger, and he looks better with imposing his physicality. Quickly, a couple possessions later, we saw him operate out of the pick and roll with Bub Carrington for the first time. And he got himself to the rim and had a nice finish. And then a couple possessions later, saw him go out of the pick and roll again and just throw one down, an absolute rim rocker to start things off. So a lot of good things that we saw out of Alex Sarr today. And we say it so often with Sarr that sometimes you just want to see him go up and dunk the ball or just not be afraid of the contact. And I think today he wasn't as shy from getting around the rim and trying to put it up over his defender as he was in last year and maybe even at times in the Summer League. This was a very encouraging start ultimately for him. AB, what else do you notice about Sarr today defensively?
I think defensively, Ben, the Raptors were scared to go in the paint because once Alex Sarr is in the game, they saw that, hey, it's going to be hard to get a shot over him. And I feel like this is just going to be a common theme throughout the rest of the season that I'm hoping where teams are going to be reluctant to go inside because you have a 7'1" guy who can just go out there and just block you from any point of attack. And I'm hoping that him defensively alongside Bilal Coulibaly, who comes back, Keyshawn George, like we mentioned earlier, or I don't know if we mentioned already, but Keyshawn George had 4 steals before the first half, and it's just things like that will add up and make this team better defensively. And we're hoping that, again, it is the Toronto Raptors because you're going to play better teams, especially in the Eastern Conference, that a lot of teams are going to be competing. So I'm hoping that Alex Sarr can be the focal point for this team defensively.
And I think overall defensively, it was not a bad effort from this Wizards team. And just think about how sloppy they were offensively throughout the game. I'm pulling up the total numbers here. Team turnovers for the Wizards today. Let me get it pulled up here. I think it was around 19. Yes, 19 turnovers today for the Wizards. And it was a big problem in the first half, albeit it was a little bit better in the second half. And the reason for this was because Toronto played very physical defensively in this game. Head coach Brian Keefe for the Wizards after the game said that Toronto was a good test for them early in the season because they play so physically. We saw them really picking up 94 feet from the get-go in this thing. And it seems like the Wizards had a tough time settling in offensively to start the game. I think Bub really had a hard time handling some on-ball pressure. So not an encouraging start for Bub Carrington, but we'll have more on that as the episode rolls on. Once they were able to kind of get more into their offensive sets, pick up the intensity offensively, I think they settled into the game pretty nicely, and ultimately the shot just wasn't falling at times for this team. I know Keyshawn George started the game 1 for 9 or 1 for 10, really struggled to get it going offensively, but we're going to talk about him and his undeniable impact that he had on the game defensively in a little bit. Overall, with this Wizards offense, I think if they can clean the turnovers up and allow Sarr to really operate out of the pick and roll, I just don't know who the ball handler is going to be at this point, because we're going to need somebody that can actually get Sarr the ball down low in the paint. If he can play with that type of physicality in the regular season over the course of the year, I think he's poised for a really big second season here in D.C. I think he's going to be a lot more efficient offensively, which is exactly what we needed to see from him.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, Bub Carrington wasn't the best game today, was struggling. And a lot of people are skeptical. I've seen already on social media saying, can he be that lead point guard here in Washington? It is one game, preseason, I'll give him that. But it brings up the fact, Ben, or the idea that what if this team wants to move to CJ being the one and having Bub play the 2 at that combo guard role? Because CJ McCollum today, offensively, he was going, Ben. When the Wizards couldn't buy a shot, he went there, I think, at 16 points at half, finished with 19. A guy like him, not too long ago, dropped 50 on this team last season, and now coming into this season is a guy who's going to give you 20 to 25 points a game. And just in general with this young squad, that it was promising to see that even though a game where you're turning the ball over so much, and I think they had more points in the paint compared to Toronto, you saw this team still fighting. And that's what you love to see, especially from a young squad who, night in and night out, you're going to be not favored in a lot of these games. And it was a great atmosphere in Capital One Arena. Saw so many Wizards fans. Shout out to our boy Noah, ran into him, viewer of the channel. And overall, just I think it was a great way to start the preseason. And tomorrow you have New York, and we'll see who runs out with their lineup tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. Tomorrow, Wizards in action at Madison Square Garden against the Knicks. We got a lot of comments already about how the game ended. Olivier Sarr, the brother of Alex Sarr, with the buzzer beater.
Ben, I didn't even know he had a brother. Like, that's crazy.
It's nuts. It's nuts that that's how the game ended. And Sarr said in the post-game press conference, what did you say? They asked him, what did you say to your brother? And he said, he was screaming at me. And I was like, get out of here. It's the preseason. And he's right. It's the preseason, so you can't overreact. You can't buy too much into these things. But when you're a Wizards fan, you got to feel good when you see certain things that might give you a glimpse of hope of what could ignite for this organization. And I said it a couple days ago, Alex Sarr is going to be such a pivotal part of what this Wizards organization is trying to do. If he can develop into what a second overall pick should be offensively, because we know he's going to be a great, almost all-NBA level type defender in terms of defending the rim. But also we had the question of, can he rebound the basketball? He looked a lot better rebounding today. It is the preseason, but saw him getting himself into position. He grabbed 8 boards in the first half today, and overall, the physicality. He played big. Roland Hawley said Sarr played big today. Yeah, damn right he did. And this just kind of goes back to the video we made a couple days ago, because the one question I had when you see Sarr working on threes, and ultimately he was a guy that made over 103 last year, I said, what do the Wizards want him to be long term? Because, yeah, he's got the size to be a really good center. He's got the physicality and maybe the tools, but Are they looking for him to be more of a stretch 4 long-term here in DC? I don't know. The way he looked today, he looks like a 5 to me. So hopefully that continues to progress as the season goes on. AB, another thing that was interesting, and it's just the preseason, so we can't really buy too much into it. Marvin Bagley did not come into the game until about 6 minutes left in the third quarter. We saw Tristan Vucevic, actually the first center off the bench for this Wizards team, and he had some flashes offensively for sure. I think at times he struggled because he got into foul trouble. Wizards really kind of battled foul trouble actually a lot throughout the game. Bub Carrington picked up 3 personal fouls in the first quarter of this one, so goes to show you how the game can kind of come along that way. Trey Johnson was the first off the bench for this Wizards team, so no surprise there, and took a not so great shot. Not his first shot. His first shot was actually a really good one. He got in the paint, got 2 feet, pump fake to get his defender off him. Yeah, and he just ultimately wasn't able to finish that one. So I was like, all right, let's see what he's got next possession. Then he took kind of a contested runner on the bright baseline. Wasn't a great shot for him. But I think in the second half, he really settled into the game and was able to utilize his skill with the basketball in his hands to try to get to the rim. Want to see him maybe be more aggressive in terms of shooting the ball from the outside, because we know that's Trey Johnson's thing. But ultimately, you see him working on the things that maybe were not part of his repertoire as much in college, getting to the rim, trying to play make for others. Really good stuff from Trey Johnson today. I think his confidence is going to continue to grow as we move along here throughout the preseason and then into the regular season.
Shout out to also the other rookie, Ben. Will Riley hitting those 2 clutch free throws at the end, drawing a foul. Should have been this game-sealing free throws, but those reps right there are going to hopefully go into the regular season where he gets some of those minutes. So shout out to Will and Trey.
Yeah, absolutely. Will Riley, the 2 clutch free throws that probably should have won the Wizards this game, but I don't know why the Wizards didn't put somebody like Bagley or a 7-footer to get under the basket on that play, because with 0.8 left to go, yeah, theoretically you can catch and shoot, but it was just a 1-point lead for the Wizards. It seemed like a lob play. Everyone was saying in our chat that Drew Gooden actually called that was exactly going to happen on the broadcast. So
I think just Jameer Watkins mistimed the jump as well.
That is true. Jameer Watkins came in and he played with his hair on fire, I'll tell you that. I mean, we'll save that maybe for another episode, because ultimately in the grand scheme of things, not really exactly the point we're trying to make here, because Alex Sarr and some of our other young guys. But this veteran presence for this team is going to be so big going forward as well. And it's not really a surprise, AB, that McCollum and Middleton were probably the 2 best offensive players on the floor today.
And that's what we were talking about going into this season. If this young team can get there, inefficiency is a thing when it comes to young guys. And guys like Chris Middleton, CJ McCollum stepped up big time today.
Sorry, I had to turn the microphone back on there for a second. Let me just get up here. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Keyshawn George and his undeniable defensive presence that we saw today, albeit some offensive struggles. We'll be back on Locked On Wizards. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with a brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move. Whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors, this is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan to stay motivated and reach peak performance. I love how the Peloton IQ system offers real-time strength coaching. It actually tracks your reps, suggests the real weights, and corrects your form, making every rep safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. My goodness, Keyshawn George, a monster defensively. We are live from Capital One Arena following the 113-112 Wizards loss in the preseason opener. And yeah, Keyshawn George, he didn't have his day offensively. I'll put it that way. He struggled with efficiency. He did ultimately pick it up a little bit down the stretch of this game. George ended up finishing 3 for 14, so kind of oddly enough, he finishes with the same field goal percentage, 3 of 14, as he did in his last offensive outing in the second Summer League game. But once again, in a game where he really struggled defensively, his defense is ultimately what stood out, AB.
Yeah, and that's what we love to see, Ben. When a night where it's not going offensively, it's going to happen. For a guy like Keyshawn George, we expect him that not every night the shot will fall, but he still contributed with 11 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, 4 blocks. His versatility, Ben, I mean, it's not talked about enough when it comes to him being able to guard 1 through 4, and then hopefully bringing the ball down the court, backing down defenders. That shot that he was working on this offseason of bumping into a defender and then creating some space, we saw that on display today, and I'm hoping, Ben, that it is what it is. If a young guy like him, it's easy to get in your head and say, hey, I'm not having my best day, I'm gonna get in my head. But a guy like him who can if the shot's not falling, I'm going to play defense. I'm going to rebound. I'm going to do whatever I can to help this team win. And we saw that tonight from Keyshawn.
Absolutely. And the one thing that stands out about Keyshawn George, aside from just looking at stats in the box, you don't need to look at a box score to see how great Keyshawn was defensively in this game, outside of the 5 stocks, obviously. He's long, he's instinctive, and he's always around the basketball. He's quick to close out on shooters. His impact that he has on the game defensively is undeniable. Imagine a night where you have him with his shot finally falling, because Keyshawn George doesn't lack any confidence. And remember, we heard he told Bijan Todd a couple days ago that you weren't going to feel that many offensive possessions this year where you don't notice that Keyshawn George is on the floor. And, yeah, that was apparent today. He took 14 shots. He never lost sight of his confidence to go get after it. And, he was just missing open looks. And sometimes it happens in the league. You have a cold night shooting. And ultimately, I think that's going to get better as it goes on. It's a good thing. It's the preseason, one, because you're working out these kinks offensively for Washington, but Keyshawn George showed the ability to create for himself off the dribble today, showed the ability to play make. He was out there getting rebounds as well. But defensively, he's a guy that when you have other great offensive pieces around him and other great defenders as well, like if this team takes off a couple years from now, Keyshawn George is going to be an elite defender for this team because he can guard 1 through 4. He can practically do it all defensively. It's just a matter of time, really, I think, before his shot starts to fall, and I'm very encouraged from what we saw tonight from
And again,
him.
it has been the first game back, Wizards basketball preseason. Those jitters, the young guys are probably feeling the third youngest team going to this season, and it's all good. Like you mentioned, some night the shots won't fall, but let's talk about another 4 in this team, Ben. Cam Whitmore. I mean, that block that he had, he just looks like a guy jumping off like a trampoline the way he jumps out of a gym. I am so excited for year 1 of Cam Whitmore in Washington.
Yeah, Cam Whitmore pretty limited in his minutes early on. He played a lot in the second half, so we didn't quite get to see how offensively he might fit in the rotation in the first half, but he was one of the first couple guys off the bench in the first half. You saw that 9-man rotation, and Whitmore provided a pretty good spark for them offensively because of his ability to penetrate and get to the basket. When we talked to Chase Hughes the other day, he said the one thing that stands out, other than the athleticism, of course, for Cam Whitmore, is just his ability to push the ball in transition and his ability to get past his defender, beat his man. He's a freak at 6'7", 235, and he's got a lot of speed to his game, especially with the basketball in his hands. Whitmore showed some pretty nice stuff. It's going to be interesting to see how they kind of work him in the rotation as time goes on, to see if he gets comfortable playing alongside some of these other guys. But a guy that did not play tonight for the Wizards, probably because Whitmore was playing so much, was Justin Champagnie. Surprised did not play today.
Yeah, my boy JC. I'm hoping that Ben against the Knicks he'll get some playing time, because I thought he was a guy that was already above Corey Kispert on this roster, but Corey Kispert was out there contributing some minutes. So I'm hoping that JC, last year he played really well towards the end of the season, and from a two-way guy to a standard contract, that he was a main embodiment of the whole G League development, and I'm hoping that he shows out tomorrow against New York.
Yeah, I'm wondering if, the way minutes were kind of divided was because the fact they're playing a back-to-back. Why are they playing this? Why is this their preseason schedule? It doesn't make any sense. They were the last team to play a preseason game in the NBA, first of all, which is weird to me, and then they're playing a back-to-back before they have just one more.
Disrespect, Ben, the NBA. That's just Washington Wizards treatment.
Law says they know what they have in Champagnie. They wanted to see the new kids. Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, that's why you saw guys like Jameer Watkin get a lot of the minutes in the second half and try to showcase what they have on the floor. I think the one main takeaway you can take from today is that you're going to see some leaps and bounds from these players as the season goes on. Alex Sarr, I think he's going to be better offensively. Today was just a glimpse of really what his true potential could be as the center of the future for this team. If he can get it down in the pick and roll, and I know ball handler is a problem that we're going to address here as the episode goes on, but if you can find somebody that can get him the basketball in the paint, Sarr does look like he's put on weight. That's what we were told before the season started, and him imposing his physicality will make him a lot more fun to watch. You're probably going to not yell at your TV as much with Alex Sarr saying, why don't you just go up and dunk the ball, dude? It seemed like he didn't have the fear that he did in year number 1, and that's going to go as time. I loved when Chase told us the other day that when these players are drafted around 18 or 19 years old, the plan is they reach their potential around 26 or 27 years old. So you're looking at 8 or 9 years before these guys reach their true potential as players. So you really got to be patient with these players and what the development process is going to look like. But if you get Alex Sarr really looking confident as an offensive player and improving the efficiency in year number 2, maybe you can be hopeful by year 3, 4, or 5 that you have a almost all-star level player. And hopefully, if his defense can continue to be what it was in year number 1, you just get the offense up to speed to the NBA level, you got a really good player on your hands.
And I'm hoping, because the Wizards go as far as Alex Sarr. As much as I love Trey Johnson, Ben, if you can get Alex Sarr to hit his peak of being that elite rim protector, offensively can shoot it from the outside, can facilitate, be a playmaker, then this elevates the games of Keyshawn George, of other young guys on this roster. Bub Carrington, who we're going to talk about in the third segment. I want to also reiterate, Ben, Trey Johnson had 7 rebounds. I didn't notice that until I looked down the box score, but that's very impressive from a guy his size, who also, the shot's not falling in the first half, but you're still going out there getting rebounds, trying to help this team win.
Absolutely. Offensive rebounding, the disparity that was today, I'm going to pull up the stat right here. I believe the Wizards gave up 14 offensive rebounds in the first half, which was insane, yet they were still winning the game. That's going to be a big problem for this team. We'll address that. Third segment, when we come back, we'll talk about Bub Carrington and his struggles today as this team's point guard. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you do not want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and you'll get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet and put down just $5. If it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love FanDuel because it has so many ways you can play. I've built parlays, I've done teasers, player props, and even follow the live lines during the game. That's a fun way to do it. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to get started or download the FanDuel app today and get started now. One of the tools that helps make a huge difference for business owners is Quo, formerly OpenPhone. It's the same great business phone system you've heard me talk about before, just with a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or computer. So no more carrying 2 phones or relying on a landline. I love how Quo, formerly known as OpenPhone, lets your team share one number and collaborate on calls and texts through a shared inbox so no customer gets left hanging. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly OpenPhone. Get started free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/LockedOnNBA. That's QUO.com/LockedOnNBA. And if you got existing numbers with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. All right, continuing to move along here on Locked On Wizards Live. Appreciate all of you guys that are interacting with us in the chat, all of you in the stream here. You guys are the diehard Wizards fans. You tune into the preseason instead of football Sunday. That says a lot about you guys, so we appreciate you that much more. Keeping it locked on here on Locked On Wizards. Bub Carrington, today was an opportunity for him, and I mean, talk about a good test to have for a guy trying to learn the new responsibility of being the primary ball handler, a team that really pushed the tempo when it came to defensive pace. They picked up 94 feet early on in the game, and that's what Brian Keefe said was a big reason why they were excited to have Toronto on the schedule early on was because of the ball pressure you're going to see. But Bub Carrington really struggled facing some of that heavy on-ball pressure today. It was very evident just from looking at the stat line, of course, but his impact on the game. They weren't really able to generate much offensively in offensive sets where he was out there because, one, he was struggling to get past his defender who would pick him up around midcourt. And ultimately, I just think he didn't really look that comfortable with the ball in his hands tonight, Abdullah.
And I feel like, Ben, it's going to be a little bit of adjustment because last year you were a young guy who just got drafted and you were playing alongside Jordan Poole, and Jordan Poole was that lead guard for this team. But now it's all eyes on you and Bub Carrington year 2. And he talked about how confident he is right now. Media day saying that after that game winner in Miami, I feel like I'm ready for year 2. And it is what it is. Again, the jitters, I'll give him a pass because, again, you don't want to overreact come one preseason game. But it was a little concerning to see Toronto with the full court press and Bub was struggling to get the ball up the court, and then the turnovers were very apparent. And I'm hoping a guy like him, Ben, can, if the shot's not falling, maybe be like Keyshawn George in a way where you can go out there, still try to get rebounds, still try to facilitate, be a playmaker. And it happens, it is what it is, but we're hoping that also he wanted to work on getting downhill, being more aggressive, being at the free throw line more often. And I think we mentioned his plus minus was like minus 34, which, again, it's not that great, but he's a young guy. He's going to have to learn. We have to remember this team is young all across the board. And for him to be that lead guard here in Washington, it's going to take some time because we have so many scorers on this team, and Alex Sarr, Keyshawn George, Trey Johnson. The idea, Ben, of CJ McCollum potentially being that lead point guard, I don't know if I want to do that just yet. I don't even know if I want to do that any time of the season because I want to give Bub Carrington the huge chance of him proving that he can be the point guard here in Washington. I feel like if you give those roles to CJ, it just kind of hinders that development, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Bub Carrington was bad today. It really was not a good look for him offensively. 0 for 8 from the field, 0 for 5 from 3, and of course the turnovers as well, which really stood out. 4 turnovers, and he didn't really have many opportunities to turn the ball over in the second half because he didn't have the ball in his hands a lot. But yeah, like not sugarcoating it or anything like that, but Bub Carrington still deserves a chance to show what he can do as a point guard. Yeah, today was pretty much a bad start for that, but it's way too early in terms of his development to just take that away from him or, put somebody else like McCollum into that into that role. But the one thing you do think about is if you can't have Bub be your primary ball handler, if that doesn't end up working out at some point in the season, I feel like you do have to make a change at some point, though, because you need somebody that has the ability to play make and get balls to the guy like Alex Sarr. Because Alex Sarr down low today, we saw how efficient he was around the rim. He operated well out of the pick and roll. The short roll was something you wanted to see Sarr improve upon here in year number 2. And today was maybe an indication that we're going to see him jump his ability in terms of a post presence offensively. But you're going to need somebody that can get him the ball. And yeah, you can have the pieces pick up with other players on the offense like Keyshawn George or Chris Middleton, CJ McCollum, getting him the basketball down low. But your point guard's got to be your facilitator, so something's got to give at some point. That's all I can say right now. Bub, tough start for him, and obviously there's a lot that he's going to have to work on as he moves throughout the preseason. But tomorrow's a new night, a new opportunity for him. We'll see how he bounces back.
And it was kind of in the Summer League, Ben, where that first Summer League game he struggled, but in the second Summer League game he had a clutch 3 towards the end of the game. So I'm hoping that Bub Carrington can learn from his mistakes because, again, year 2 guy, really young, 20 years old. And for a team that wants to develop guys, we have to be patient, especially the point guard position because it's such a vital position in today's NBA.
Yeah, it takes time to develop. He only played a year of college ball last year, completely different role with Jordan Poole being the primary ball handler, as you mentioned. So you just have to give players like this time. And as we've talked about it ad nauseum, really throughout the past week, these players really take time to develop into their true potential offensively. You just hope, and I'm not going to make this proclamation because obviously it's a preseason game and it's way too early even to make any indication here that Bub Carrington would hinder development of someone else if he can't play make for others. But it is something to think about as time goes on. He's a 20-year-old kid. We saw what he can do in terms of dribble pull-up shots last year, and I think that's the shot he does want to get. And I don't know if maybe this is kind of the thing. I got a reply on Twitter saying Bub Carrington, most of his shots last year were little dribble pull-ups. That's not really the shot you want from your point guard. You want somebody that can penetrate, break down the defense, get 2 feet in the paint, and play make for others. So maybe Bub's role changes as the season goes on at some point because I do think he has talent offensively. I don't know if point guard is going to end up being his forte per se as we go on, but you got to give him a chance. That's all I can really add to that.
Yeah, I'll just say it again. He's 20 years old, played in all 82 games last season, broke a lot of rookie records. Let's be patient. I want to read these comments, man. I know some of them are probably crazy.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's get into some of the comments that we got today from our wonderful audience here on Locked On Wizards. Shout out to all of you in the chat or whoever has interacted with us throughout the day. Fun one here at Capital One Arena. It's just so ironic that the game ended on a buzzer beater from Sarr's brother.
I heard so many people say such Wizards fashion to end a game.
Yeah, Wizards basketball is back, baby. That's the best way. We've seen a lot of comments actually about Will Riley, Abdullah. I was super impressed in the small sample size, of course, that we had, but he looked good, instinctive, passing the basketball. There might be something there with Will Riley. He only played in 15 minutes, the plus-minus at 12 today, positive for Will Riley. 4 points, 2 assists, and 2 boards. He just looked good and comfortable with the basketball in his hands, which is really interesting because he's such a raw talent. After this guy because of the potential of what he think he can be down the road, and we've heard the rumblings. Maybe he's a guy that gets utilized throughout the Capital City Go-Go this year because we know the organization has plans to utilize them heavily. But I don't know. Will Riley, the way he played today, he might actually deserve some NBA minutes sooner than we thought.
You brought up an interesting point that he might play what Keyshawn Rolls was last season, where he takes him some time to get ready, but hopefully carves out that role here in Washington. One, shout out to our boy Locked On Law. Cam Whitmore's taking Bilal Coulibaly's job. You heard it here. I'm telling you, Ben, that's going to be a take that's, at least for the next couple of weeks while Bilal is out, something that we're going to have to keep an eye on. Cam Whitmore needs to start at the 3. I don't know, Ben. I feel like Bilal, as much as we love him defensively and offensively, we know he can take that jump come year 3. Cam Whitmore, in a limited time, he's so freaking explosive. And defensively, we saw what he can do. And offensively, he can take it to the rim, had an and one, had a 3-pointer from deep. A guy like him, if you're Bilal Coulibaly, you're just like, I want to go out there and prove that I can still be that 3 here for the future.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens when Bilal does come back, probably a week or 2 into the season. But yeah, Cam Whitmore defensively, we need to bring that up because that's the one thing you said was pretty unknown about his game. He didn't really play much defense for an Ime Udoka squad in Houston. But today he looks stout defensively. He had the high-flying block that got the crowd into it. But overall, his presence defending the ball, off the ball, Cam Whitmore was all over the place. And it's a want-to thing, as we've heard everybody in this organization say throughout the preseason, that you just got to go out there and want to play defense. And it was obvious to me Whitmore wanted to show what he could do defensively. He said, hey, coach, you need me because of my offensive prowess, and I can get it done defensively. That's what the preseason is all about. So big shout-out to Cam Whitmore. I know the stats won't really jump out to you. He didn't have any high-flying poster dunks or any of that jazz that you'd expect out of a guy like Cam Whitmore, but his impact was big today, and I think he really showed a lot of what's to come. I think today was a really important debut in a Wizard uniform for Cam Whitmore.
And Wizards basketball is back, Ben. That's the main thing that I love to talk about because now we can actually not be doing speculations, predictions. We're actually going to go out there and analyze this team, and it's going to be a long season. Today, it was frustrating to see the turnovers early on, but this team somehow fought back, and we were looking at each other saying, how is this a close game? And Will Riley in those 2 clutch free throws. So overall, it was a great day in Capital One Arena. I'm hoping more games to come.
It's just crazy, like how many different wings are on this team and how we're going to have to evaluate them. Like you said, we're finally talking basketball now, which just, it feels so good. For everybody that was out there probably getting sick of whatever was being talked about, because every point we made throughout the summer was to get ready for this moment right now, to see what would actually come into fruition as the season went on today. And yeah, there were some really encouraging things today, Abdullah. And I know you could say right now it looks like it's going to be a long season because this team can't rebound. They were totally outclassed on the offensive glass, and yeah, that was very apparent. But I think you have to set the expectations, to a realistic standpoint here, Abdullah. We know what this team is right now, but where they want to be in the future is what's most important. So every single night, you need a takeaway from the game that will give you some hope of what could be a glimpse of what's to come here in DC. And tonight, for me, overall, just main arching point is Alex Sarr really showed me that I think he has the potential to be a very effective offensive player, and maybe we're going to see a full breakout in year number 2. He did get the 1 vote from a GM in the NBA GM full list there of players to break out this year. He did get a vote, so maybe we're just going to see that today.
Yeah, that 1 vote, that's all that matters. And I think that him and Keyshawn, Ben, could hit that all-defensive team. I'm hoping 3rd team, but it all starts with winning. In order for this team to get respected by the NBA and just people in general, NBA fans, you have to go out there and start winning and playing competitive basketball.
Absolutely. All right, that will do it for us today here. Locked On Wizards live from Capital One Arena. Over 50 of you in the live stream today. Big shout out to all of you, the DC family. We continue to grow. Wizards drop it 113-112. Olivier Sarr, the buzzer beater, but it was the Sarr on our side that really stood out today for the Washington Wizards. Is he poised for a breakout in year number 2? Let us know, and let us know in the comments what you liked from today's opening preseason game. The Wizards are back in action tomorrow at Madison Square Garden, taking on the New York Knicks. Abdul and I, we're going to have to figure out a way to get the coverage for you guys. We're not going to be there, obviously, and I'm going to be at the station for 106.7 The Fan working for Commanders game day. So tomorrow might be a cluster, to say the least, but we're going to figure it out for you guys. Wizards Nation, we thank you for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every single day. Be sure to check out the Locked On NBA Fantasy Basketball Show hosted by Josh Lloyd. You want to get your lineup right ahead of the regular season? That is the best way to do it. For my co-host, Abdullah Ayubi, I'm Ben Strober, DC family. We sign off. We'll talk to you tomorrow.